Ronda Rousey's exit from the UFC was pretty damn miserable, as the MMA pioneer suffered back-to-back stoppage losses to Amanda Nunes and Holly Holm. Her exit from WWE wasn't quite as miserable, but it was miserable enough to kickstart this list. Hello there, my very good friends. I'm Andy from What Culture, and these are the 10 worst wrestling matches of 2023, according to the internet. Number 10, Ronda Rousey vs. Shayna Baszler, WWE SummerSlam, 3.12 out of 10. Where did that rating come from, you ask? Well, for this year's worst matches list, we're going to the closest thing that wrestling has to Metacritic, Cage Match, to gauge public opinion. So these aren't necessarily my worst wrestling matches of the year, as you're about to find out, but the people's, although there are a few exceptions here. Number 1, we've stuck to the scope of What Culture coverage, which means WWE, AEW, with a little bit of New Japan and Impact as well. This is a blessing, really, because it means you don't have to hear me talk about bloody Tyrus 3 times, and let me tell you, I really don't want to talk about Tyrus 3 times. And number 2, LA Knight vs. Bray Wyatt was rated very low on its merits as a match on Cage Match, but I refuse to talk about that one in this space. Anyway, Baszler vs. Rousey was another example of MMA rules and similar matches failing to connect in a worked environment. It simply doesn't work. If you're promoting an MMA style match in wrestling, you're basically asking people to accept that this is real and everything else is fake, or simply everything is fake and that MMA is a giant work in and of itself. The 7 minutes that Ronda and Shaina got bored an audience that wanted sports entertainment to tears. And it didn't help that the real life best friends were strangely lacking in intensity or chemistry for two people that have known each other for bloomin' years. A shame, really, but kind of indicative of Rousey's comeback run in WWE as a whole. Number 9, Bully Ray vs. Tommy Dreamer, Impact Wrestling Sacrifice, 3.02 out of 10. This was a busted open match because Tommy Dreamer and Bully Ray are both on Busted Open Radio, and in wrestling you get busted open when you bleed, so yeah. Very clever, lads. ECW nostalgia is a really tricky thing to pull off in 2023, and this match was a reminder of that. The majority of the Cult Promotions heroes are now north of 50 and have had to adapt their styles. As such, watching Bully and Dreamer plod their way around a really basic plunder brawl in Impact was a really tough chore to get through. Really, the only objectively bad thing about this match was Tommy's spray tan. Otherwise, it was just kind of there. But while Tommy and Bully are legendary practitioners in the hardcore field, this lacked the intensity and heat, ironically for Bully, to compensate for the lack of new ideas. Number 8, Bully Ray vs. PCO, Impact Wrestling Victory Road, 3.00 out of 10. Okay, unlike the last entry, this was awful, but not until the final few minutes. Early on, it was a pretty solid, pretty routine plunder match with its anything goes stipulation, until both men just completely lost the plot, and they lost the plot spectacularly. Not only did you get the microphones loudly picking up a bunch of called spots in the ring, including Bully shouting and frantically waving for PCO to cover him after a table bump, but my god, this spot. There's a moment where Bully calls for a chokeslam, then willingly stops attacking PCO so that he himself can set up a table that he's about to go through, and wow. This is the same guy, remember, that not so long ago was complaining about referees holding ladders for people to jump off of, and then he did this. Even Bully's usual comedy bit about his balls, you know that one, felt unintentionally disastrous in this almighty mess. It's a shame, really, because Bully was really great against Josh Alexander earlier in 2023, and PCO is chaos incarnate, but this completely fell apart. Number 7, Bayley vs. Shotzi, WWE SmackDown on the 1st of September, 2.94 out of 10. I can only imagine that this match was rated so low because the finish kinda sucked. Charlotte Flair interfered to even out the damage control advantage, completely whiffing a big boot on Io Sky on the outside before gifting Shotzi the victory while the referee's back was turned, which, to be fair, isn't the most inspired piece of booking in the world, and a lot of people really don't like Charlotte Flair, so when you add those two things together, maybe that's why it was voted so low. And that this happened during Shotzi's frankly badass moment where she shaved her own hair out of pure defiance in the damage control feud kinda sucked as well. Here was Shotzi out for blood, looking to batter Damage Control, get her revenge, and take full control of the feud, and she couldn't even win by herself. But shoutouts to Shotzi nonetheless. She shaved her head to support her sister, who was going through chemotherapy at the time. She kicks ass, and I hope that she has better WWE payoffs in 2024. Number 6, Bianca Belair versus Sonya Deville, WWE Raw, 23rd of January, 2.81 out of 10. Why? Why is this here? I mean, it's not a good match, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't even bad. It was just a bit pointless, really. Sonya Deville shouldn't have lost a match like this when she was feuding with Charlotte Flair for the SmackDown Women's title at the time, but other than that, it was okay. It was just the kind of match and silly booking that you used to see on WWE television all the time, and while I'm glad that is gone now, it's not the end of the world, this match. I'm not gonna lie, I think the cage match inmates are completely out to lunch with this one. What do you guys think was an awful 2023 match that should have taken this one's place? Let me know in the comments section below. I'm sure there are plenty. Number 5, Yujiro Takahashi and Sho versus Taichi and Taka Michinoku from the New Japan Cup, 13th of March, 2.62 out of 10. Okay, I'm gonna keep this one really brief because fuck the House of Torture, frankly. I just don't want to talk about them ever again. The worst act in New Japan history originally had 3 matches on this list, so I gimmicked them down to just 1. Trust me, like Tyrus, you do not want to hear me talking about the bloody House of Torture 3 times in one list. And they aren't even funny like Tyrus would have been. They're just a mess of dishwasher doll interference tropes and insomnia-curing offense from the worst mainstream wrestler in the world, Yujiro Takahashi. Get in the bloody bin and never come out. Unless you've been gobbled up by Oscar the Grouch and kind of shat out. I'd take that, to be honest. Jeez, get rid of this. Number 4, Hikaru Shida versus Ruby Soho, AEW Dynamite, 25th of October, at 2.57 out of 10. Okay, what the hell happened here? Shida and Soho are 2 of the best wrestlers in the division, and they had a killer match on the 29th of September episode of AEW Rampage. Then, 1 month later, they dropped an absolute clanger, not a banger, on Dynamite. There was some totally nonsensical stuff here that wasn't their fault, admittedly, like why would an agent have Ruby purposefully try and get herself disqualified in a title fight when she was the challenger, and if she got disqualified, she wouldn't have won the belt? That just doesn't make any sense. But for the most part, this was 2 very good wrestlers having a very bad night at the exact same time. Botchy, sloppy, and nowhere near either wrestler's usual standards, this was one that both will want to forget about, and probably have already. To be fair, Ruby and Shida are much better than this, and I hate even having to talk about it, to be honest. Number 3, Britt Baker versus Taya Valkyrie, AEW Dynamite on the 26th of July, 2.42 out of 10. For a bunch of people online these days, hating Britt Baker has become a personality trait. So insane is the hatred from people who've never met her that you'd think Britt had burned down their parents' house, killed their pet pug, and taken a selfie with the corpse. The venom thrown her way is borderline psychotic, and quite frankly, it's all because she had a few matches these loonies didn't like and was the subject of some backstage rumors that nobody can even verify. It's completely mental. Nonetheless, nobody's work is beyond reproach, and this was not a good match. Britt versus Taya was dysfunctional. All blown spots and whiffed exchanges, most notably in the finish. It was 2 wrestlers struggling for chemistry and cohesion, and a lot of it looked really bad, like doesn't really belong on television, kind of bad. But when it comes to Britt, the woman could literally save the lives of 1,000 children after a horrific incident, and some posters would still be upset with her. Personally, I think she is tremendous, and I'm glad she is able to continually rise above the numpties online and just put everything behind her. Number 2, Byron Corbin versus Gable Steveson, NXT Great American Bash, 30th of July, 2.31 out of 10. To be fair, this was whack, like really whack. WWE desperately wants to make Gable Steveson a thing, but this match accomplished the opposite. Byron Corbin is theoretically a very safe choice for a first timer. He's an effective villain that the crowd enjoys rooting against, and a far solider worker than most of his haters would admit. It speaks to this match's failure, then, that the audience was all over Steveson, completely rejecting the new golden boy by the end, drowning Gable with jeers where Vince McMahon and Shawn Michaels likely imagined there'd be rapturous applause. The rare rebellious modern WWE crowd aside, Gable flopped hard. The Kurt Angle comparisons were unfair and cursed from day one, but by entering a nothing performance devoid devoid of fire, energy, and personality, Steveson looked far closer to green than gold. And he should. It was his first match. He should really suck. It's just maybe this should have taken place on a smaller stage. The guy just isn't ready yet. And at number 1, drum roll please, Jeff Jarrett versus Jeff Hardy, AEW Fight for the Fallen, 16th of August, 2.24 out of 10. So the Cage Match users voted this the worst match of the year, and yeah, it probably was, but we have to talk about the context here. AEW was promoting the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre game with this match. It was branded content for which Tony Khan's promotion received over $100,000. They then donated that money to the Maui Food Bank 1 week after catastrophic wildfires had struck the Hawaiian island, claiming at the time of recording at least 99 lives and causing $5.5 billion in damage. So criticizing this match is complicated. Its existence is very noble, and it's a good thing they've done here, as they always do with the Fight for the Fallen shows. But that being said, the match itself was a hot mess. You can't get around that with the interferences, the fake blood, and Leatherface hitting the ring with a chainsaw while bzzz noises filled the arena. The villain chased Karen Jarrett from ringside at one point, which confusingly enabled Jeff's victory as he defeated Hardy following a Satnam Singh clothesline, then celebrated with a Leatherface championship belt. So Jeff Jarrett is AEW's 2023 Chainsaw Champion or something? I don't know. Matt Hardy, Sonjay Dutt, Jay Lethal, Brothers A, Ethan Page, and a whole bunch of other people were all involved within the very first minute. Smoke bellowed from beneath the ring at one point, which was never paid off. And as the whole thing came to an end, Taz could only quip, well, that was something. Quite. Anyway, I've had enough talking about these rank awful matches. Just be thankful I didn't speak about the match where that guy got injected in his penis. Don't Google that. I'm Andy. See you later. Bye.